The story kicks off with a girl named Danbi, a high school senior who is, let's be honest, academically challenged. And by challenged, I mean if grades were Olympic sports, she wouldn't qualify for the trials. Her worst subject? Math. The numbers and her have a mutual understanding. They don't get along. She even naps through class like it's a spa retreat. One day, the teacher calls her up to the board to solve a problem. The classroom goes silent. Danby stares at the equation like it personally offended her. As usual, she has absolutely no idea what's going on. The teacher loses it and scolds her in front of everyone. And just to twist the knife, tomorrow is the college entrance exam. No pressure, right? Now, Danby may not love studying, but she loves music. Play her a few seconds of any song and she can instantly tell you which singer it is. It's her superpower. Fed up with the non-stop lecturing, Danby storms out to grab food with her best friend. But surprise? Her friend is just as stressed. She's convinced that if she messes up tomorrow's exam, her entire life is basically over. Danby can wrap her head around how one single test is supposed to decide someone's whole future. Still, deep down, she quietly wishes she could just disappear. The next morning, Danby oversleeps. Of course she does. She rushes out of the house in full chaos mode. Her mom tries to shove breakfast into her bag, but it's already stuffed with snacks. Danby quickly explains that hoarding snacks is her secret stress relief strategy, emotional support chips, if you will. Somehow, her mom squeezes breakfast in anyway, repeating, "You'll do fine, just do your best," which, ironically, makes Danby even more nervous. On the way to the test center, she's frantically reviewing notes every spare second. She finally arrives, but the universe isn't done with her yet. She left her umbrella on the bus. And now it's raining, so she has to sprint toward the school gate, getting soaked in the process. As she reaches the entrance, panic hits her full force. One thought loops in her mind. What if I fail? The fear grows so overwhelming that she suddenly bolts, not into the exam hall, but into a nearby park to hide. A little while later, her friend texts her, "Why aren't you at the exam?" Danby doesn't reply. Instead, she silently prays, "Please, just this once, make me disappear." And then it happens. She hears a deep, drum-like sound echoing in the distance. Curious and slightly unhinged at this point, she follows it. She finds a small hole in the ground and carefully sticks her foot in. It feels endless, like there's no bottom. The next moment, she sees something unbelievable. A group of people dressed in ancient clothing are performing a grand ritual. They're saying there hasn't been rain for 3 years and the entire country is on the brink of collapse. Everyone believes this rain ceremony has failed again, but suddenly, dark clouds gather in the sky. The high priest shouts joyfully, "Heaven has heard us! Joseon will finally receive rain!" And right in the middle of all this chaos, Danby, without thinking, jumps into the hole. Instead of dying, she pops out of a massive water jar. Like she just respawned in another dimension. She looks around in shock and blurts out, "Are you guys filming some kind of historical drama?" The king, witnessing her bizarre entrance, is horrified. "Is this a human or a witch?" he yells. Panicking, Danby shouts back, "I'm just a high school student." The king doesn't buy it. He assumes she's some kind of male assassin. He immediately orders the guards to draw their swords. They surround her, and one blade lightly cuts her hand. That's when it hits her. This isn't a dream. She has actually time traveled. Suddenly, the priest runs in yelling, "Stop! She's the angel sent by the heavens to end the drought." Hearing that, Danby remembers the historical drama she watched last night. Inspiration strikes. She raises her hands dramatically and shouts, "Let it rain!" Everyone drops to their knees, repeating her words. But while they're all looking up at the sky, Danby quietly sneaks away and hides in a dressing room. She hurriedly changes into what she thinks looks like a minister's outfit. Unfortunately, she accidentally walks straight into the morning royal assembly. The king announces that from now on, he will abandon superstition and save the country through science and mathematics. Immediately, one minister jumps up in protest. He declares that this is an insult to the gods and will doom the nation. According to him, the drought will only end when the king and queen consummate their marriage. Plot twist, that minister is the queen's father and secretly wants to seize power for himself. While everyone is distracted arguing, Danbi quietly slips out, trying to find her phone. Because honestly, if you're stuck in another century, step one is checking for signal. But before she can make her escape, she gets caught. While waiting for the king to arrive, Danbi starts thinking, maybe if it rains, I'll get sent back to my own world. That seems logical, right? Rain brought her here, rain can send her home. But when the king finally shows up, he drops a bombshell. It hasn't rained in this land for 3 years. 3 whole years. Danbi's jaw practically hits the floor. Before she can process that, a sword is suddenly pressed against her neck. The king eyes her strange clothes and declares she must be a spy from an enemy nation. Obviously, because when in doubt spy, he orders her execution on the spot. Panicking, Danbi blurts out, "Wait, I'm just a student from the future. I got here by accident." She starts rambling, trying to explain everything that happened before the park, the hole, the exam stress, but no one believes her. Of course they don't. Finally, in a desperate attempt to save herself, she blurts out the most random thing imaginable. "I'm a math expert." Now that gets the king's attention. Intrigued, he decides to test her. He gives her a Pythagorean problem and says she has 2 days to solve it. At first, Danbi can even read the old-style writing and is completely overwhelmed. But then it clicks. It's just the Pythagorean theorem, the thing she barely survived in high school, and she solves it in 5 seconds. The king is stunned. His 6 top scholars couldn't figure it out, and this future student just did it instantly. He makes her a deal. If she teaches him math, he'll let her go. He even sweetens the offer by promising her a brick of gold. At night, Danbi can't believe it. 2 hours ago, she was the weakest student in her class. Now she's the smartest person in Joseon. Honestly, knowledge really does change your fate. From that day on, Danbi disguises herself like a private attendant and starts secretly teaching the king math. She's shocked to discover that he doesn't even know basic numbers like 1, 2, 3. So she starts from scratch. Addition, subtraction, eventually multiplication. The king studies everywhere. While walking in the garden, in the middle of meetings, math becomes his new obsession. But life isn't easy for Danbi. She's constantly exhausted. She has to wake up early to teach him and barely gets proper meals. A few days later, they hold a big math practice competition. The music is intense, the tension through the roof. The king gives a wrong answer, and without thinking, Danbi smacks him lightly on the forehead. Servants rush in ready to attack her for daring to touch the king, but he stops them. His competitive spirit is fully activated now. In the next round, he catches one of Danbi's mistakes and jokingly says he'll cut off her hand. You know, friendly royal banter. Suddenly, the queen walks in. Both of them panic and hurriedly hide all the math papers, pretending they were just practicing music. At lunch, the king notices Danbi is starving, so he invites her to eat with him. But the palace food is painfully bland to her, so she drags the king into the kitchen and, using ingredients from her bag, makes spicy rice cakes. At first, the king looks down on this commoner food, but the moment he takes one bite, his eyes go wide. He's stunned. Danbi worries he won't be able to handle the spice and offers him water, but he stiffens proudly and says, "It's not spicy, it's just warm." The next day, however, his stomach is a disaster. He's convinced Danbi cursed him with witchcraft. She patiently explains, "It's not magic, it's indigestion." Seeing his utterly confused expression, she starts explaining how the intestines work, what the stomach does, and how the heart functions. She tells him to put his hand on his chest and feel his heartbeat. He shakes his head. "I don't feel anything." Smiling, Danbi says, "When you fall in love, you'll feel it." The king is genuinely impressed by her knowledge. He praises her, saying she's even more valuable than he thought. Then he takes her to the royal physicians and tells her to teach them about the human body, how it works from the inside. Not only that, he also learns about agriculture from her. With Danbi's help, medicine and farming in Joseon slowly begin to improve. The king is thrilled. As a reward, he gives everyone a precious orange. He casually hands one to Danbi, but his eyes nearly pop out of his head when she peels it and eats it immediately. He scolds her angrily, saying she didn't appreciate his gift. Such a rare fruit should be treasured for at least 3 days. Danbi laughs. It's just an orange. Why are you so serious? As punishment, the king drags her to the field and orders her to repeatedly pick up balls. Danbi grumbles. Soccer practice at night? Seriously? The king snaps. That precious orange, you didn't even let me take a single bite. Teasing him, Danbi calls him stingy. And honestly, she's not wrong. Danbi sticks out her tongue and teases him, and the two of them burst into laughter like a couple of middle schoolers who just got away with something. For the first time in his life, the king feels light, genuinely happy. Not royal duty accomplished happy, just plain human happy. That night, he offers to walk her home. Then, he rushes to his own room and gets properly dressed, like he's about to attend a royal prom. Meanwhile, Danbi grabs the orange he gave her and draws a little happy face on it. At that exact moment, the king's heart starts pounding like a drumline. He remembers what she said about feeling your heartbeat when you're in love. And naturally, he jumps to the most dramatic conclusion possible. Oh no, I in love with Danbi. Panicking, instead of meeting her himself, he sends a court singer to escort her home. Smooth move, Your Majesty. The next day, the queen decides it's time to win back the king's affection. She orders her maid to secretly mix a magical love powder into his food. Subtle. Very subtle. But the king feels guilty for making Danbi wait the night before, so he gives his entire meal to her instead. Even after that, Danbi's mood stays sour. The truth is, the king had been watching her from a distance the previous night, completely confused about what to do with his feelings. That same night, thinking everything is perfectly arranged, the queen enters the king's chamber and boldly starts taking off her clothes. The king immediately refuses, and, in the most awkwardly polite move ever, helps her put them back on. At that exact moment, Danbi stumbles out in a dazed, almost drunk-like state and collapses straight into the king's arms. The queen sees this and assumes the king simply isn't interested in women at all. Furious, she storms out. A few moments later, the love powder kicks in. Under its effect, Danbi openly confesses her feelings to the king. No filter, no hesitation. The king can't hide his emotions anymore either. He slowly leans in to kiss her. But at the last second, he freezes. Have I completely lost my mind? He mutters. When Danbi wakes up, she finds herself in the king's arms and is absolutely stunned. Instead of punishing her, the king once again offers to walk her home. On the way, he tells her that if she wants, he'll give her a high-ranking position and even a royal horse. Danbi refuses. She tells him that once it rains, she'll return to her own world. The king says softly, "Because of you, I can finally breathe freely. From now on, don't see me as a king. We're equals, friends." Touched, Danbi gives him the orange with the smiley face as a gift. But the very next day, trouble explodes. The minister accuses Danbi of insulting the queen and demands severe punishment. The king steps in and protects her, declaring that this young woman holds priceless knowledge. Seeing the situation slipping out of his control, the minister proposes a challenge. If Danbi can build a machine within 2 weeks that tells time without relying on the sun, she'll be forgiven. After the meeting, even the king's most trusted advisor tells him to let her go. It's impossible, he says. Danbi overhears this. Her heart shatters. Determined to survive, she seeks help from the court musician to build a water clock. She spends day and night studying, calculating, barely sleeping. Meanwhile, the king misses her terribly. He keeps staring at the smiley orange she gave him. Eventually, he can't take it anymore and goes to see her. A flashback reveals that he had told the minister earlier, "I believe Danbi can do this." Later, Danbi wakes up and notices a small smiley face drawn in her book. She immediately knows the king had come to encourage her. She gathers his strength and continues her research. Finally, she completes all the calculations. But suddenly, heavy rain begins pouring from the sky. Danbi slowly reaches out and touches the puddle forming at her doorway. It's real. The water is the same kind that brought her here. It's a path back to the modern world. But instead of joy, she feels hesitation. She doesn't want to leave. At the same time, the king remembers her words. Throwing all royal dignity aside, he runs through the rain to find her. When he arrives, she's standing in front of the water clock, crying. The machine she built isn't working. The king takes her hand and places it over his heart. "I tried so hard to forget you," he says, "but I failed." Then he pulls her into his arms, and grateful she hasn't disappeared yet. After calming down, he tells her she should escape by boat. Now! Danbi refuses. She spent her whole life running away from things. This time, she wants to finish what she started. Just then, the court singer appears and leads her toward a quiet forest. Suddenly, he places a sword against her neck. He's actually the minister's spy, sent to kill the so-called demon woman. But he can't do it. He's convinced now that Danbi truly came from the future. He had known all along that she was a girl, but like an honorable man, he never revealed her secret. Danbi explains that she never meant to deceive anyone. The job was meant for a boy, and she had no other choice but to pretend. Meanwhile, the minister pressures the king, insisting that everything Danbi has taught must be erased because her knowledge threatens his power, but the king refuses. Instead, he leaves the palace himself to search for her. The queen senses something is off. She walks into the king's chamber and notices the orange with the smiley face drawn on it. Memories of the king and Danbi together flash in her mind, and suddenly, it clicks. Danbi is a girl. Out in the forest, assassins close in on Danbi. The court singer urges her to run first. She hands him a small utility knife, and that tiny blade ends up saving him by the narrowest margin. Meanwhile, Danbi struggles to control the horse. It panics wildly, but then she remembers the horse-riding dance moves from Gangnam Style. Matching that rhythm, she somehow manages to calm and control the horse. Yes, K-pop choreography saves the day. At a fork in the road, she has no idea which direction to take. Then she remembers what the king said. In Joseon, the sun tells the time. She pulls out her phone, checks the compass in the sun's direction, and finally heads toward the sea. Back at the palace, the queen learns that the singer has run off with Danbi. She sets out on foot to find him. To move faster, she throws away her heavy royal headpiece. The journey is so long and brutal that her feet start bleeding. She only breathes easy when she finally sees the singer alive and unharmed. The truth is, they were childhood friends, and she only married the king because her father forced her. 2. For the first time, she confronts her true feelings. At the seashore, Danbi stands watching a breathtaking sunset. Suddenly, the king arrives on horseback. He pulls her close and kisses her passionately, holding her tight. That night, Danbi finally tells him how she came from a future. As proof, she shows him a star map on her phone. But the battery drains quickly. The two of them look up at the sky. Danbi says sadly, "In the future, you can't even see this many stars anymore?" The king gently replies, "If you stop and truly look, you'll see them. They were always here. They never left." After a while, the king writes the word love on her hand. Danbi gives him a piece of chocolate with love written on it. The king shares his dream. He wants to create a simpler writing system so that ordinary people, not just the wealthy, can learn to read. Suddenly, Danbi remembers something. She pulls out a bill from her pocket and sees the king's face printed on it. Excited, she blurts out, "You're definitely going to achieve it." Then she hesitates, wondering if she should ask him for an autograph. The king takes a bite of the chocolate and praises the taste. Danbi wants to offer him more snacks, but then she remembers her mom packed them. Her eyes well up. The king immediately asks what's wrong. She quietly explains that those were her favorite childhood snacks. The next day, while washing her face in the river, Danbi notices moss clogging the water and slowing its flow. It suddenly clicks. That's why her water clock failed. She rushes back to the palace, fixes the design. And finally, the clock works perfectly. The king immediately calls a meeting and announces that Danbi will be pardoned and granted a high position. The minister explodes with rage, demanding she either be exiled or executed. The king refuses to back down and secretly continues learning math and geography from her. That same day, Danbi visits the royal kitchen and catches the queen secretly eating in the corner. It turns out her father restricts her food because he's afraid she'll gain weight and lose value. Danbi feels sympathy and cooks instant noodles for her. The queen takes one bite and instantly falls in love with the spicy, flavorful taste. Slowly, she begins to open up to Danbi and even shows her a design sketch. She admits she wants to fill it with colors that shine like starlight, but she doesn't know how. An idea sparks in Danbi's mind. She tweaks the drawing slightly and lifts it toward the night sky. In the next moment, a dazzling, starry dress design comes to life. The queen is thrilled with the unique creation. She even tells the royal official to reward Danbi. Meanwhile, Danbi takes what might be her first proper bath in this historical era and then changes into beautiful clothes. She feels completely overwhelmed. She has no idea what's happening anymore. Just when Danbi thinks life can get more complicated, a palace maid informs her that tonight she's expected to stay with the king. Wait, what? Turns out Queen Dowager has officially named her a royal concubine. Danbi panics and bolts, hiding in a side hall like a fugitive in a period drama. But it doesn't take long for the king to find her. He grabs her hand and gently pulls her toward his chamber. She struggles, tears in her eyes. You said we were just friends, and I'm only 19. The king, clearly operating on ancient logic, jokes, if you're 19, you should already have 3 children by now. Then he pulls her closer and softly admits, I knew from the beginning that you were a girl. Apparently, the day he brought her home, he overheard someone call her Nuna. That was the giveaway. He never exposed her because he wanted to get closer to her. Danbi still keeps her distance, so he reassures her gently. Don't be afraid. I won't do anything to you. My mother is stubborn. Hiding here is the safest place for you. And as he's about to leave, he can't help adding, You look really beautiful tonight. Neither of them sleep. In the darkness, the king quietly says, Next time it rains, don't leave. He admits that at first, he only wanted her help to strengthen his rule and achieve his ambitions. But now, none of that matters. He just wants her to stay by his side. Danbi feels torn apart inside. She has no idea what the right choice is. The next day, the singer asks her gently, Do you really want to go back? She admits she's afraid. Afraid she might lose herself if she stays, but she also misses her mom and her best friend desperately. She doesn't even understand her own heart anymore. She sits alone in a corner, completely lost in thought. A little later, the queen arrives and says someone has come to see her. It's Queen Dowager herself. The moment Danbi sees her, she bursts into tears because the Queen Dowager looks just like her real mother. The older woman takes her hand and comforts her with quiet warmth. That night, Danbi visits the king to see the new machine they built together. It can now record dates and months accurately. Then he takes her to his study and reveals something even bigger. A brand new writing system made of 28 characters, designed to make reading and writing simple for everyone. He explains, no matter who you are or where you're from, anyone can learn this. Danbi is stunned. She's literally watching the future being created before her eyes. The king gently places a hairpin in her hair, a symbol of marriage, and asks her to stay with him forever. Tears fill her eyes. I want to go back, she whispers. My mom is waiting for me. The king softly replies, Then go see her and come back, or we could all live here together. Danbi slowly shakes her head. She removes the hairpin and hands it back to him. Anger and heartbreak flash across his face. Do what your heart wants, he says, before walking away, leaving her standing there, alone. Suddenly, an assassin attacks her. He strikes her head, stabs her in the stomach, and the entire study room bursts into flames. Unconscious, she clutches the hairpin tightly in her hand. When the queen discovers her father's conspiracy, she defies him and runs to warn the king. The king doesn't hesitate. He jumps straight into the fire to save Danbi, not caring about his own life. And in that moment, he realizes something painful. Keeping her by his side will only put her in danger. The next day, he explodes in anger at the singer. The bomb was missing last night, he shouts. He grabs the minister by the arm and yells, Did no one teach you how to clean up after handling explosives? Then he looks at Danbi. That was the voice, wasn't it? She nods. It turns out the book inside her bag saved her life, and she clearly heard the assassin's voice. The king is devastated. He can't believe his most trusted minister betrayed him. The minister falls to his knees and argues that if the new writing system spreads, young people will speak their minds freely, discipline will collapse, and the world will turn upside down. But the king refuses to back down. He declares that the literacy system will be given to the people no matter what. Realizing their mistake, the other ministers fall to their knees too, begging the king to take their lives. Afterward, Danbi hands the king a history book and tells him his dream will definitely come true. The king is stunned. Everything else was supposed to burn in the fire, yet one copy survived. In that moment, the king finally believes her, truly believes her. Danbi really is from the future. On behalf of the people, Danbi thanks him for his courage, for his dream, for everything he's trying to build. But the king takes a long breath and says quietly, "I don't think my dream can be complete anymore." Then he looks at her with warmth and adds, "Because my dream is you." And just like that, your heart breaks a little. He continues softly, "But I can't keep you here if you're unhappy." As if the universe itself is listening, the sky turns dark, thunder rolls, rain begins to fall. They both know it's time. Danbi walks back to say goodbye to everyone. The queen, the singer, the people who became her unexpected family. Then the king personally escorts her to the very edge of the world they shared, all the way to the sea. There, under the sound of crashing waves, they create one final beautiful memory. He pulls her into his arms and kisses her gently, not desperate, not dramatic, just full of love. Finally, he lets her go, but in his heart, he makes a promise. No matter how much time passes, he will find her again. Moments later, Danbi emerges from a small puddle in the park. She's back. She looks around in shock. In her world, only a few seconds have passed. Without wasting another second, she sprints to the exam hall. The teacher is still there, waiting. The college entrance exam has just begun. The first question on the history test reads, "Who assisted King Sejong in his inventions?" The answer, the very name the king once told her, Jang Yo Young-sil. That's when it hits her. None of it was a dream. She wasn't imagining things. She was part of history. When she gets home, Danbi hugs her mom tightly, tighter than ever before. This journey has taught her something priceless, how to value the people around her and the life she already has. And yet, every time she sees a small puddle of water, she remembers him. One day, as she steps off a bus, a sudden downpour begins, just as the rain starts soaking her. An umbrella appears above her head. The man holding it looks exactly like the king. He smiles and says, "We've met before, a long time ago." And then we find out something even sweeter. On the day of the exam, he liked her at first sight. He was the one who picked up the umbrella she accidentally left behind. And just like that, their story begins again, this time in a different world.